All right, good morning, guys. Welcome in.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
They said, Mike, when you buying a plane? That's the first comment I see.
I had a Cessna before, but a jet? I don't know. Maybe in the future.
Welcome in, everybody. How is everybody doing? Welcome. Wednesday morning. Look how much brighter. See, you guys, look how much brighter it is today in New York. This is, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. The Northeast is back. If anyone's in the Northeast, you guys know what I'm talking about. No bad weather anymore. We had bad weather for like 4 or 5 days. The good weather is back. Welcome in, everybody. It is a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday morning. Market's gapping up. Market is gapping up off of a lot of chip strength this morning. So we're going to talk about what's going on here. And we're also going to talk a little bit about banks yesterday. Banks were strong going into our Tuesday morning and continue to be a bit strong here in the pre-market session. So we'll discuss what's going on here on the bank side. I think that's probably the most important thing to watch this morning is going to be what banks do, and also what does the SMH do? What did the chip sector do? Obviously, chips are gapping up this morning. So some big things happening. We'll go over AMD. I think Mike and I are both watching AMD as well. AMD has a really nice, beautiful flag play setting up. AMD looks really good on the 1 hour time frame. So does AVGO, AVGO. AVGO, I think, looks really, really good as well. Incredible looking chart here. I know it's a little bit wonky in the 1 hour, but if you go to smaller time frames, it looks quite nice. So we're going to talk about this. We have Mike on the horn. Yep, Mike is on the horn. We have Trump on the horn later on today. I think Trump, not on my pre-market, but Trump is going to be on, I believe, at 3 p.m. today. So it's going to be yet another exciting day. I think it's been a lot of whipsaws back and forth in the market, right? A lot of the market has been kind of guided by what Trump is saying on Truth Social. So I think we should all be aware of what's going on today at 3 p.m. I believe it's 3 p.m. Eastern, but you can probably correct me in the chat. Anyway, Mike and I are going to dive right into these charts this morning. We'll go over econ data, earnings reports, and then we're going to dive back into the charts, and we'll have a great time. I'm also going to go over one long-term trade I'm watching, actually maybe two if we have time. And I think Mike was going to go over some trades he's watching today on ES. He and I were just talking about ES failures this morning. Okay, so without further ado, I want to open this up and watch this for a second. You're going to see me do this live. Ready? Watch this. Bam. Refresh button so I can't mess up this morning. Because yesterday I was all wrong. Now today we can't be wrong because we have refreshed this at 8:36. So unless something pops up in the next 2 minutes, it wasn't here. Okay. So today, Wednesday, October 15th, this morning session, we have Fed speaker after Fed speaker after Fed speaker after Fed speaker, then a Trump. Okay. So we have basically Fed speaker multiplied by 4 or 5 actually, and then Trump at 3 p.m. So understand we have some big talking heads today, and then one very big talking head at 3 p.m. Okay, Bostic, Moran, Waller, Schmid, all today's session. Tomorrow is big. Tomorrow is the biggest day of the week. We have, assuming this gets released, because you guys know the market. Mike, is this getting released tomorrow? The jobless claims data, is it being released? Probably not, right?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, so probably not. But again, more Fed speakers tomorrow. We know that's going to still be active going into our Thursday session. But in terms of our jobless claims data tomorrow, it's probably not going to be released. So if you're a swing trader, go all out, go crazy, right? Because this is probably, I got to say this is probably some of the best times to be a swing trader because, I mean, there's no data. I mean, there's literally no data. And every single morning, the 8:30 data is just non-existent. So swing traders are going crazy. I mean, obviously you have some news to contend with Trump. But besides that, I think it's been some clear skies. Friday session big. We'll go over that on Thursday. Okay. On the earnings docket for today's session, you guys know, I mean, this was important, but it's mostly about banks. So yesterday you saw some big bank volatility. That's part of the reason why this SPY held up yesterday was because the XLF. As long as financials are holding up, the overall SPY is just going to have a hard time selling. I think Mike even made a comment yesterday on live that QQQ was actually just better, right? It was a little bit better to trade yesterday. And I think part of the reason why Mike was saying that too is because it moved better, right? Banks were kind of rallying the whole market yesterday, and reversion trades on SPY. We did actually get a nice trade on SPY, by the way, but it just took a long time, right? It actually took me the third trade that I took AMD, then I took SPY, and then SPY, and SPY. And the fourth trade of the day was the nice one, right? And I think if you were just trading Qs yesterday, probably would have been a much simpler day. But who's to know, right? Today's session, Wednesday in the pre-market, we have ASML, Progressive, Dollar Tree, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is up a few points this morning, so we'll take a look at MS in the pre-market session, okay? All right, I'm going to stop my yapping, and I'm going to pass the charts off to Mike, and I'm going to let Mike talk about his first ticker of today's session, SPY.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today is all about the 668 level on SPY. 668 was that Tuesday low from last week. It also correlates to SPX 6700, right? And if you look at the SPX chart, you'll see 6700 was the low from Tuesday. It was the high from Monday, September 22nd. That could be the head and shoulder of today if we wind up failing that. So I want to see if we get failures off 6700, I'll be looking for shorts. If we break above, I'll be looking for longs today. So it's really all about that level on SPY for me, 668.
Yeah, so let's do a little reset here because there's a lot of things going on, right? Yesterday was all about, what did we say yesterday? Yesterday we said don't short the bottom, short the top, right? And the top that we discussed yesterday was, and by the way, you can hear us, right? Can everyone hear us? Can you guys give us a mic check for both me and Mike? Mic check, everyone can hear us.
Mic check.
We should have done that before we started because imagine they can't hear you. You guys can hear both of us, right? Loud and clear? All good. All right, awesome. So yesterday was supply rejection, okay? And I'll tell you what I said yesterday was basically we gapped down in the pre-market, right? This is where we gapped down into. And my mindset was on a gap down like this on SPY, don't be short back into this demand zone, right? Instead, look for supply rejections back over here. And that's all I did yesterday. So yesterday's session for me was basically waiting for us to pop in this. I did take AMD off the gate, longs off the gate, but then I started looking for reversion trades on SPY. And you could see that, I had the right idea, right? The right idea was there. You can see there was a reaction, and there were some decent scalps off this level. But ultimately, what ended up happening yesterday was we turned 660 into support. That's ultimately what happened, right? You saw some initial rejections, maybe some little downside moves. If you go to maybe the 2-minute time frame off that 660 and change level, you saw multiple times there were some reactionary moves off that level. You can see once and twice and 3 times and perhaps 4 times, right? But the idea yesterday was eventually we just started to turn that resistance into support. And this is why sometimes being a trader, it requires you to be fluid, right? Because an initial chart that is a pop and fade rejection can eventually turn into a break and hold, and the market continues off that resistance, right? So this is what happened yesterday, right? In summation of yesterday's session was basically short the pops, right? And then the pops are not fading, right? Market holds the levels, and then we ended up rallying into close. Now today's session, what's it all about? Today's session on the 5-minute time frame, on the 15-minute time frame rather, you're going to see here that we have gapped up in the pre-market session. We've gapped up over 664. We gapped up in a supply here, and we are at a major band of supply right now in the pre-market session. My major band of supply, this has been unchanged. We haven't touched this chart since, I don't even think we've touched this chart all week. It's been the same thing as last week, and we are at the supply zone, right? So Mike is saying 668. To be honest with you, I have 667.50 as my supply zone, but it's all the same thing, right? The idea this morning here on the S&P is that we're at the make or break moment here, and I think that Mike's right about that, right? So if you see us clear above this 668 supply or really 667.50, which I have on my end, well then you know where we're going to. We're just going back into the highs here at 673. So this is going to be the make or break for bears. Are bears going to get roasted like pigs? Or are bulls going to get roasted like pigs, and then we'll see the downside move. So again, it's going to either be we hold above 668, right, or 667.50 for upside back into the all-time highs. And I argue if we see this move here, if we see the break and hold above 668, I don't even think that we're going to reject here at 673. I think we're probably just going to break these highs and continue onward, right? I think that's what's going to happen here. So if this happens, the bull case is very much intact. If this happens, then we're still in the bear trend here, right? This is still potentially the lower high formation. Lower high and a lower high could form right there. So it's kind of like basically saying anything can happen today, right? But I will say this, we know exactly where it's going to be. It's going to be at 668 today. So even though we are coming into the session relatively unbiased, we know that everything is going to be guided by the level right in front of us, which we could use as 668. And what I'll do here to make things very simple is I'll adjust my level, right? Because I agree with it, right? Let's just adjust our level here to 668 and change. You can see 668, and I'll move my supply up a little bit over here and just encapsulate that whole zone. So this whole zone for me is still supply, okay? And do we reject here? If so, back into lows, or do we hold here? If so, back into our highs. That's just what it is today here on the SPY chart, okay? On ES, Mike, what are you watching ES?
ES, it's 6750 to 6750 to 6760 is all supply. That $10 zone.
And then if we clear above 6750, where are we going to? What's your next big level?
If we break 6760, then we go to 6800.
6800, right? And that's just what it is, back in all-time highs here, right? So you can see it. What Mike's saying basically is, again, like his level, my levels are a little bit off, right? Because you can see here, if I look at my level here on ES chart, it probably does require some adjustment here, right? So adjust to that 6748 supply. You can see that's where it is, but I'll leave the overall level there, right? So this is where the band is on SPY. And then obviously if you break above 6748, 6750, which Mike is saying, then it's back into 6762, back to the Thursday's lows of last week. But then above this level is back in all-time highs. So some big levels approaching here on the ES chart. And the question really is this. The question is, do you view this as a lower high formation, right? In which case back into lows, or do we break and hold above this level and see upside back in the highs? So the scenarios are pretty much either scenario A or scenario B, right? And I think today's session, we have to watch and wait and see what's going to happen. Yesterday, it was both trades won. If you were a bear off the open, if you were a bear off of the supply, you were okay yesterday. But again, the bears lost yesterday's battle. Today's session, let's see what happens. Are the bears going to come back and fight the supply zone, or are we going to reclaim the 6750s and see back in all-time highs? Very important level here, 6750. I'll keep that on the main watch as well today's session. Okay, on Qs, on the QQQ, Mike, this is all yours. I'm gonna let you do this one.
Yeah, I mean, QQQ, we're already kind of above the supply that I've been trading off of the last couple of days, 603. We're above that now in the pre-market. I do have another level from last week at 606, but for me, QQQ, it's bullish as long as it's above 603. If we get back under 603, it's bearish.
Yeah. So I have a lot of levels in my chart, to be honest, here in Qs, and I think that it's probably too much, to be honest. It probably is too much. I think there's too much going on here. And if I were to simplify this chart, I would say for me, it's going to be 60250, which is that pre-market level and the highs of yesterday's session. You can see yesterday's session highs. And this is why Mike and I were saying that the Qs were probably better. Imagine you just literally did this. You shorted the 598 for supply. That was a beautiful high there. That's what we spoke about in the pre-market. And then also above that high, you knew it was from here to there as your next supply zone. So you could have literally just done this, shorted the first tap, or even longed the move above 598 for the upside move back into 6025. Today's session, it's about the most important level in front of us on the Qs. This is actually, I like this better than SPY this morning. And I know I was saying I like SPY yesterday better. Today, I almost like this QQQ chart better. I like this 60250. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I can see this is a very clear pivot, a very clear inflection point in the market is 60250 to 603, right? You can see bam, bam, bam. If we're above it, we're strong. If we're below it, we're weak, right? And so that's a very clear inflection point going into our someone said, not too many levels if you're Rav. Yeah, Rav would have like 100 more levels here. But again, it each their own, right? If you can read it, then you can read it. For me, this is what I like. This is the actual maximum amount of levels I have in my chart. But again, 60250, that's my key supply zone, my key demand zone this morning. If we're above it, bullish. If we're below it, bearish. Right now, obviously, the sentiment is a bit more bull-sided here in the pre-market. So look to see if we can fill back below this level. If we do, downside, Mike is saying, you said 606 or 608 is your supply?
606 is my level above.
Yep, 606 as your next big resistance, right? And then obviously 608 above that level. So there's some interesting things here on Qs. It's probably the same thing as SPY. It's just basically the same thing, right? But I think if you are trading Qs and you want to look for values today, the big failure is going to be back under 60250, right? So let's start going over tickers today. But before we do that, we're going to pause the stream because we have approximately 1,070 viewers and 343 likes. A bunch of freeloaders today. Guys, get the like count up. That's the only thing we asked for. Get the like count up. Where is everybody? Where's all the excitement? We're over here going over levels every single morning, and we have nobody liking the stream. Let's wait.
Let's get to 5,000 likes, guys. Come on, it's Wednesday. It's early. We're here. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. Love it. All right. Let's dive into it. So, what's your first ticker, Mike? I'll let you start it off.
Let's start with AMD.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so let's check this out. AMD had a double top of all-time highs at 227. It broke above it temporarily for a couple of days and then sold back underneath. However, it's been consolidating, and now if we reclaim 227, we could push all the way back into those previous highs at 240 plus. So that's my watch today on AMD. 227 reclaim.
Yes, sir. I like that. I traded this on yesterday's session. I'll show you where I longed it. I longed it pretty well off the open, right? I longed it right over here at the open, and I'll show you what I did. Basically, this was my day yesterday on AMD, and probably could have done a little bit better in this one, but whatever, is what it is. I longed it right there. I got into highs there, and then I sold my runners over there. That was my day yesterday in AMD. Now it ended up going again, but for me, like, getting a little scalp like this before the big move, I'm okay with, because today's session I think is going to be, or today or tomorrow is going to be the big move. Now we know what AMD does. We know AMD is one of those names that AMD will wait for you to go into the nice 5-star restaurant, okay? And it's going to be waiting outside of the 5-star restaurant, and it's going to rob you, right? That's what AMD does. AMD is one of those names. It sees you walk in with all the jewelry, right? And as soon as you walk out of that restaurant, it's there, it's ready, and it's gonna rob you in the middle of the day. Okay, that's what it will do. So you must be very aware that AMD is a tough cookie to play with. Now, if I'm trading this today's session, I do still like the longer picture here, and I think sometimes on AMD you just have to go to the larger picture and say, well, you know what? Like, sure, above 224 is a long side move, right? So you can see this long side move, but it may not happen. Like, it may not be a beautiful picture perfect fairy tale move like this. It may take some time. It may do a little bit of a upside move and then kind of fail back lower and then do a little bit of this, right? It could be a bit choppy above 224. So I think if you're going to trade this, give it room, right? That's part of the reason why I was so in and out yesterday, is because sometimes it's hard to give it room because the contracts move so much. But if you can and have the opportunity to give this room, give it room, okay? Give it room, give as much room as you can. Try to be a smart trader about this, because ultimately the larger term picture says it's going to go there, right? If it clears 224, it should go to 220 or 243. Mike, you're saying 227 though. You're saying the highs are here from Monday, I believe.
227 previous all-time high. Yeah.
227. So Mike's watching it actually above these highs, which I can see it makes sense, right? You can see this is the 227 level he's talking about. That's like that earnings high, I believe, or what was it? The news high? It wasn't earnings.
Yeah, it was the news high. Also the previous all-time high from March 2024.
Yeah, that was the crazy news high. I remember that. Remember we were trading on that Monday session, and then all of a sudden it just it gapped up like crazy. That was that crazy inflection point, the crazy news high. So 227 news high. If it can build above that, then back into 243. But let's keep this on the watch this morning, right? Let's move on. What do we think about NVIDIA?
NVIDIA actually closed pretty weak yesterday at 180, but then they got some news overnight. Nscale has contracted with Microsoft to provide 200,000 NVIDIA AI chips worth up to $14 billion for data centers in Europe and the US, partnering with Dell Technologies. So overnight, NVIDIA is gapping up back over 184. 184 is the level. Above 184 bullish, below 184 bearish. I actually took a beautiful trade on this yesterday. The 184 reject, this was my trade of the day. It made a $4 move. So 184 is the big level, okay?
I could see it. And to be honest with you, nothing to add there, right? That's the same exact bias. 184 is your level. That was what we talked about yesterday, pre-market. If you're above bullish, below bearish. Yesterday was your supply rejection. Today, to be honest, looks like what? I mean, if you were a bear yesterday under 184, what are you this morning? A bull, right? So 184 is your key level. 184 is your technical demand here. If you're above it, bullish. If you're below it, bearish. Justify your trades based upon that, okay? But again, NVIDIA is a watch today. You can actually watch NVIDIA. I like this chart. In fact, I might trade this today, right? Because I think AMD is very hot. I could use NVIDIA as a kind of like a substitute for trading the AMD strength, okay? SMH on semis, what the hell is going on here, right? I mean, this has to be one of the most crazy charts because they're just going up and down and up and down. You can see the gaps on semis have to be one of the most insane gaps I've ever seen. And if you're trading this intraday, yeah, sure, it's fine intraday, but that's not the fun part. The fun part on semis have actually been the overnight moves. You can see overnight moves have been the wave. Bam, bam, bam. Actually, this was an intraday move, but most of these moves have been through the after-hour session on semis. Semis have been guiding the market in ways that are just crazy, right? Because this morning, part of the reason why the market's gapping up this morning is because of this overall semiconductor strength. Now yesterday we actually closed. And look at this. This is so important because remember we said yesterday 335 was your rejection point. We said if you're looking for shorts yesterday, look at the 335. And if you look at the SMH yesterday, look at where we rejected off before the market broke out. You can see 335 was the low of Monday session, and we said, guys, if we can pop into 335 today, this is your top watch for fade, right? And again, it did fade. It faded, right? The market did fade 335. In fact, it moved from 335 to what? What is this? 335 to 333. So about a $2 downside move here on the semis. But eventually, resistance is not always resistance. A rejection point is not always a rejection point. The market did, in fact, break and hold above it. In fact, it broke it. It eventually maintained above it and turned to a bull case idea going into our after-hour session. Now, obviously, a little bit of wonkiness into close, but the ultimate idea here on semis is bullish. And if you look at here at the 15-minute time frame and you zoom out now, what is it doing now? Well, it's actually turning 340 into demand. So if I'm watching anything today here in semis, it's going to be, are we above 340? Because if we are, and we start turning this 340 into demand this morning, well, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. You know this is going to be, yet again, a bull side move. So if you see us hold 340, this is your long side trade today, okay? 340, bullish, 340, under, bearish. Very simple chart here on semis. Let's move on. Let's go over a few more. It is 8:56 a.m. We have over 1,100 viewers. Mike, I think they like you. That's crazy. They're starting to push the view count up. That's awesome. Let's go.
All right, let's get the likes up, baby.
That was the most unenthusiastic. That was so unenthusiastic, but I love it. That was so enthusiastic, but I love it. Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
Looks like shit. To be honest with you.
That's all you. That's all you.
It looks horrible. I don't see anything here in Amazon. There's nothing to do here in Amazon. I mean, obviously, the 218 is your demand. I don't want to pull things out like a magician. Like I'm not just going to pull a rabbit out of a hat here. There's nothing to do here. I don't see anything here in Amazon today. Okay. Now, granted, if it clears 220, then maybe some upside. But right now, I think we should stay away from Amazon until it clears 220. Right.
I agree.
Let's move on. Let's go over Schmeta.
Oh man. That's all Rav.
This is Rav.
720. 720 is the level that I have, though. 720, if it breaks above that, it goes back to those previous highs, like 736.
Yes, 720 key level. That's all I have here on Meta's chart. Apple chart, 250. Actually,
253 is the reject area I was looking at.
253, yeah, I like that. It's big supply. I see 253 supply, but I'm not surprised it's moving higher this morning. I think today is going to be an interesting session. Because
it will be.
I just transparently, I just don't know what we're going to do today. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what we do off the open, right? On Apple, I mean, obviously this is a bull side play here, right? If we're above this pivot here, we should see the upside play back in the 253. But the question is, what do we do here at 253? This is still rejection, right? So if you're looking for longs, you could actually long Apple above 250. You could do it, right? But then be aware that there is supply here at 253 for shorts. So I think Apple could be a watch today, right? You can look for longs back above 250 and then look for shorts at 253. Again, just play the levels, right? Demand here at 250, supply there at 253. Long it into 253, short it at 253. That could be a top watch trade session here on Apple's chart. Avgo. So I think this chart's interesting. The reason why is because is doing something so important at 350, and 350 is a very important inflection point. 350, you can see, is that major, well, it's Tuesday's highs now, right? It's also Tuesday's highs, but it was the hold level on Monday. If you guys recall on Monday session, I took a little bit of Avgo on Monday. I did take a little bit of Avgo on Monday. I think I longed it into this 945 candle and got some upside. But as long as we're above 350, we're actually bullish here, right? And this morning here on Avgo, we've seen the gap down on Avgo under support, okay, under 350. And it got a lot of shorts interested here under 350 because 350 was that major failure point. And now we've reclaimed and recaptured that level. So in my eyes here on Avgo, we should see this begin to build higher, right? If we're above 350, we are bullish. So look for this to build higher. In fact, you can look for longs above 358, which would be your supply zone. So if you can clear the pre-market highs and that level from Monday session, then look for a push back into the 373s. So this is a watch this morning is going to be, can we long Avgo above 358 today for upside back in the highs? Now, granted, I'll be transparent. If you're live trading with us in Honey Drip, I'm just not going to signal this because this one's going to be a name that is a liquid. It's going to be a name that you can't have 10% risk on because I know if I lose in this trade, I'm losing 25%. That's just simply what it is. But if I win this trade, I'm making 30 or 40%. So it is good risk reward, but for developing traders, you want to be very aware that this is a chart that you probably should stay away from, right? Look for longs above highs back into here. It's a good trade. Or look for longs at 350 for a reversion trade off the Tuesday's highs. That's just what it is today. But again, this is a watch. And I would keep this on your top watch going into our Wednesday morning. It's a name that is unforgiving, though. It's an unforgiving name, so you must be very aware of that going into our Wednesday morning, okay? Mike, anything to add there on any tickers?
No, we can do Palantir, PLTR. All right, so Palantir, I caught a scalp on this yesterday. If you look at the 5-minute, I waited for the candle. It was the 940 candle to lose under 172, and I got in for a $1 delta move. It was about a dollar move, and the contracts did like 12-13%. And then I immediately sold my runners when it reclaimed 172 at break even. So this was not a sexy trade. I was looking for continuation under that 172, but it completely reclaimed and actually squeezed. So you don't want to stay in positions that are reclaiming those levels because this was a very big demand. And eventually I think we do lose that 172 and makes a big move down. But for now it's holding, right? So 172 is the big demand and 188 is the big supply.
Absolutely. And I think that the sentiment here is my guiding principle that keeps me grounded and tells me not to do dumb things. And I think that what Mike is saying basically is 172 reclaims, get the hell out because you know where it's going, back higher. So remain aware of the guiding principle on PLTR, 172, very big pivot. You can short below it, get some scalps below it, but the big thing is if it can reclaim 172, GTFO, right? That's my that's my guiding principle, and that's gonna help protect me for. And again, if you're long right now on PLTR, what are you doing? PLTR profit taking spot is 188. That's your GTFO long spot. In fact, if I see us pop into 188 today, and I see us a little bit of a pop and fade here, it could be a good short, right? So watch the 188 fade, or watch the 188 for profit. I wouldn't even watch the 172 anymore, to be honest with you. But it is still bullish as long as it's holding. So that's Palantir. What else do we have here? Let's look for Teslita.
Tesla, such a shitty trade recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tennis match, right? So again, we're not gonna be magicians here and pull shit out of hats. But this is what it is. It's your demand below and it's your supply above, right? So if you want to trade the channel, do it, right? So yesterday, what was it about? It was basically demand below, right? On today's session, if you came in with the idea that yesterday was demand below, well, what are you doing today? It's supply above, right? Supply above is 445 here in Tesla. So don't be a schmuck and start doing this. I think Tesla's going to break out today, and then this happens, right? Sure, it maybe does break out, but it has to break out above 445. And remember, why am I saying this? Because there's gonna always be opportunity, right? Look at the breakout here on Monday morning. Look at this breakout here. If I go back to this for a second and I say, you know what? Let's just go back to this chart here in the 5-minute on Tesla. I would still say the same thing on Tesla on Monday morning. I would say don't be a schmuck and long Tesla into 445. Eventually, though, you do get opportunity, right? So supply rejections, you don't long it, and then all of a sudden, right here, when it starts retaining above the level, that's your long opportunity, right? It's about knowing the where. The where is the level, okay? And the when is going to be when do we actually start holding above it? And this is when we start holding above it, and that's where upside comes in. So today's session is nothing different on Tesla, right? It's just be careful of longing it back into supply because supply is still supply, okay? Until it's not. Let's move on. What are we doing here? Why do we have 700 likes? God damn. We have a lot of, this is a huge, crazy like count. That's insane.
A lot of people are asking about gold. Gold has been ripping. Have you seen that, Brett?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, you can look at GLD or GC, the gold futures. Gold is just crazy.
I've seen it.
But the thing is, guys, you can't be a buyer of gold up here. You have to wait for a pullback. I mean, maybe GLD, if it gets back to like 350, you could look for buys, or even 320. But you can't just buy up here. You're just chasing. You're chasing momentum at this point, and it's way overextended.
The one thing I'll say about gold though is the OG bag holders are gold. That's just what it is. The OG bag holders are a lot of people just don't sell gold. And the thing is about gold is it tends to move higher and take a long time to move higher and then consolidate for a long time, but it doesn't really sell that much. I would never short gold. Gold is something I would just never be a short on. The reason why is because, again, even when it does correct, it barely corrects, right? It really barely corrects because gold is a strong store of value, right? And so even though it is overextended, it's not a name I would short. It's a name that I would just wait for pullbacks and long back into demand because, again, even if it does pull back, it's just going to be longed up and dipped up off every demand zone. So again, don't short gold though. I would not short gold. Again, you could do it if you want to.
I wouldn't short gold either.
Yeah.
You could go to 5,000, 7,000, 10,000. We have no idea. It's just based on what people believe the price of it could be.
Exactly.
And central banks around the world are buying it. So I wouldn't short, but I would buy, if it gets back to like 320 or something.
Exactly. And someone said, isn't gold ripping a sign of a deeper problem? Yeah, it is, right? So basically think of it like this. Gold is your alternative asset, right? So if you see people moving money from equities into, you very rarely see gold moving higher and the market moving higher, right? Because people tend to move the money in one asset, right? And it's very rare to see the gold moving up with SPY moving up too. So, I mean, people are just pulling money out of the market, right? And I think that, yeah, this is a sign of something. And even though SPY is grinding higher and going crazy, for me, my long-term picture hasn't changed yet. I've sold a lot of my long-term. I'm buying more defensive names, and I think if you're trading gold, this kind of indicates that too, right? Be aware that the market is at all-time highs, and when you're at all-time highs, this is the best time to take profit on some of those overextended positions, especially tech-heavy positions, guys. That is it for us. It's 9:06. Let's end it here. I'll see you guys all for live trading. Have a happy and safe trading session. Thank you, Mike, for hopping on with us. See you guys
all right. Thanks for joining, everyone. See you guys on live.
See you guys on live. Bye, guys.